Okay, so the last thing we're going to do on this rocket that I'm going to show you how to do is we're going to add some controls that make accessing the animation controls for the antenna and for the rocket fins easier, so that you don't have to, I mean, you can select them in the viewport obviously and work with it, but for the rocket fins here, there's so many things going on that it would be confusing to select the right thing all the time. So we're going to move the control to the top node here, to the rocket. And we're going to do that with something called an attribute. So to do that, we need to switch from modeling to animation. And we need to do create. Oh, sorry, it's under modify, not create anymore. It's under modify, add attribute, and it brings up this little window. Now this window can look very confusing, but we're not going to be changing a whole lot here. We're basically going to be entering some names, and that's it. So let's take a quick look here at our antenna's bend, right? All right, so what I'm interested in for our antenna is the curvature is currently at, for mine, yours probably have a different value. Mine is 68.755. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to this add attribute window. Make sure I've got the top rocket node selected while I do it. So like if you look at the menu title here, it says add attribute pipe rocket. If I select the fuselage, it's add attribute to rocket fuselage. If I select that, it's to the porthole. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're on the very top rocket. Going to give it a long name of antenna. Just antenna is fine. The data type is default float. Scalar is fine. The default value we're going to paste, which was the bend value from here, 68.755. Go ahead and hit add. Now I'm going to do one for the fin. So I'll just call it fin. And I got to find the deformer. I'm going to press 4 in here. See if I can find it. Okay, yeah, let's just go through the oh, looks like I grouped the rocket twice. My bad. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and grab the fin bend, this right here. Its curvature was negative 80.214, so I'm just going to select that, press Control C to copy. Go back to the top rocket, type fin again, default value, paste, and hit add. Okay, go back to pressing, go to 6, there we go. So I've created these two attributes that just right now all they do is they just hold a number. They don't do anything. Like I'm middle mousing on antenna and absolutely nothing happens. Go ahead and undo that. So what I need to do is I need to create a connection between the attribute on the rocket and the attribute on the deformer. And curvature is just an attribute, right? We just made an attribute just like there is on our curvature. So I'm going to open up a special window called the connection editor. I think it's under general. There we go, connection editor. So the way this works is you're going to take an output, which in our case is going to be the rocket, because we want whatever is in antenna and whatever's in fin to drive the deformer, right? So the deformer is going to be the input. So I've already got the rocket loaded by default. If it wasn't loaded, I would hit reload left. I'm going to select the antenna bend. I can do it in the viewport or I can do it in the outliner. And I'm going to do reload right, and it loads it up on the right. So you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff in here that you don't see normally in the Maya viewport. This is a lot of the stuff that makes everything in Maya work. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scroll down here and we're going to look for the attribute we added. All right, there's antenna. We're on the antenna deformer. So I'm going to select antenna, and it's going to automatically filter by data type things I can choose. So I can't choose anything that's grayed out like that. I can only choose stuff that's white. All right, and I am looking for curvature. I probably went right by it, didn't I? Oh, so what happened is I selected antenna bend, which is not bend 2. So with antenna bend selected, I want to click select bend 2 and then hit reload right. And that's actually a different node. That's an input to antenna bend. Now I want to find curvature. Sorry, it's very late for me. Curvature right there. I was looking right at it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close that window. And we'll go over to our rocket. And with the antenna selected, when I middle mouse left and right, it's going to work on the antenna. I don't have to go diving into the outliner or picking something here. It's like, this one's an easy one. But the fin is a little harder. But I can just choose the top rocket node. And now I can animate that. And yes, you can set keyframes on attributes you make. All right, so let's go through this process again. I'm going to go through it with nothing selected. So go to Windows, General Editors, Connection Editor. We're going to reload the left with the rocket from our outliner selected. We're going to look for the fin attribute at the bottom here. And then we're going to find the fin bend, I think it's called. Yep, fin bend. And if we remember, we want bend 1 because that's got the curvature attribute. So basically, if you don't see the, if when you select your node, you don't see the attribute you're after right away, you need to select bend 1. And when it's highlighted, oh, come on, Maya. When it's highlighted like that, I guess that's a highlight. That's, yep, I reload right, there it is. And there's curvature. Yeah, so when it's highlighted in blue like that, that means you have it selected. Go ahead and select curvature and hit close. So I go back to the rocket now. I select fin, and I've got control over how that animates. And if you see here, we got outputs added, right? So this is telling us that the rocket has output information to 2 nodes. And if you want to visualize this relationship a little bit better, there's a window for that. I believe it is called the node editor now. Oh, it's over here, node editor. All right. So this is our rocket, and I'm going to graph up and downstream connections. And you can see this is the relationship that the rocket, you probably don't have that poly bevel in there, but yeah, the rocket does, here's the rocket, it does a unit conversion, goes into the bends, goes into the shapes. Ta-da. It's another way of looking at the data. We might get into that a little bit later, but it's a little more advanced. But what we've done here, where we've created attributes, and we've wired them up to deformers that change the shape of something that we're going to use for animation, that's technically rigging. So you've technically rigged your first model with this. All right, so this is as far as I'm going to take this video. But this isn't the sum total of your assignment. What I want you to do now is, now that you've got a model and it's rigged up, is I want you to apply some materials to this rocket. I want you to try to make it look like a rocket and have a point of view, and just you know, its appeal, make it appealing. There's really nothing appealing about everything being this really neutral gray, right? Try and make this rocket more appealing. Try and make your rocket look more interesting and have some perspective and some point of view. You know, if you understand the texture mapping stuff, maybe put some damage or some texture on this. I really want to see something unique about your rocket that we didn't do in this video when you bring it in to animate in class. All right. So color your rockets, make them look good, and we'll get to animating them.